and it's Halloween Heartthrob here. Today is Friday the 13th. It is the second Friday the 13th of this year. Don't we all feel lucky? I want to do this very special sign, and what you'll need for this sign is some cardboard, cardstock, glue, scissors, a pencil, paint, some saran wrap, and maybe a foam head. A list of all actual materials will be posted down below, but you'll want to start off with a Welcome to Camp Crystal Lake sign. I couldn't draw it, so I printed it out. After I cut out the printable, I traced it on a piece of cardboard and then cut that piece of cardboard out. You'll want to make sure that it's slightly smaller than the sign so the pieces of cardboard won't stick out. Go ahead and glue your printable onto your piece of cut cardboard. Once that is all dry, you'll want to take two smaller pieces of cardboard and glue them together and then glue them on the back of the sign so the sign will be a little bit more 3D. As you can see, before I glued the two pieces of cardboard to the back, I covered it with tape. You can do this after you've already glued it as well, but I just found it a little bit easier to take it off and tape it. This is so we can finish off the edges without using too much paint or glue. I do the same tape method to the rest of the sign. Using a large piece of cut cardboard, you want to go ahead and paint it whatever color you'd like. This will be the base of where your Welcome to Camp Crystal Lake sign goes onto. As you see here, I'm about to glue the Camp Crystal Lake sign onto the main piece of the sign. I wouldn't do this just yet because I haven't painted the back of the Camp Crystal Lake sign. Don't do what I did and paint it at the last second. So take this moment to paint the back of the Camp Crystal Lake sign and then glue it on to the rest of the background. After prepping strips of newspaper, I take my styrofoam head and wrap it in saran wrap. If you do not have a styrofoam head, do not use your own head or your friend's head or your family's head. Use something that is head shaped, like a ball or a balloon or something that is not breathing, because you will suffocate if you try to do this unless you are an absolute professional, know what you're doing, and using some sort of molding technique. Make sure that you do not put saran wrap over your own face. Do not do that. Having the luck of Friday the 13th, I lost the clip where I put paper mache all over the front. Basically all I did was laid strips of paper mache, which is just water mixed with school glue with newspaper dunked into it. I let it dry overnight and now I'm peeling off the mask. All I've done more is just added some Sharpie outlines of where the details of the mask will be once I paint it. Obviously, if you already own a Jason mask, I would just use that, seeing as how this method just makes the mask look a little bit more childish, and I wish I would have had a real mask to work with instead of making my own. Once you've trimmed off the tape and saran wrap, you want to figure out where you want the mask placed on your sign. I just decided to choose the middle. I was going to have the mask sticking halfway out of the sign with the knife in it, like the classic poster, but it just didn't work out the way I wanted it to. Moving on to the next piece of this sign, it's time to make his machete. Now, I just take a long strip of cardboard and sketch out the shape of a regular machete. Once I figured out a good pattern for the machete, I cut it out. Once I've cut the machete out, I decided to wrap some masking tape around the sides so it would look a little bit more smooth. After I finished off the edges, I decided that the handle wasn't thick enough, so I added two more pieces of cardboard, one on the front and one on the back to give it more of a realistic look. Once all the pieces were put together, I tried to nicely wrap tape around it, kind of like wrapping a hockey stick. Once I was done with the tape, I very carefully took out a piece of tinfoil. You want to be super careful with this, not to make too many bends in it, and it is very hard to do. Now, I stupidly take some hot glue. I would highly suggest using some Mod Podge or a glue that won't give you as many bumps as mine did, and gently lay the tinfoil on the blade of your machete. The tinfoil gives it a nice fake blade look, so you don't actually have to use a real blade. Now all I'm doing is painting the handle of the machete. You can paint it whatever color you'd like. I just chose black. While your machete is drying, you can go ahead and start painting your mask. I used red, white, and a little bit of black. Once your paint is dry, you want to cover the mask in a couple of layers of Mod Podge to give it strength, because all it's made out of is newspaper, paint, and saran wrap. Now that my machete is all dry after my little test run to make sure it worked, I can go ahead and glue it to my sign. Once your machete is dry, you can go ahead and glue your mask on wherever you'd like. Finishing up with some decorative netting, we have our Welcome to Camp Crystal Lake sign. A perfect Halloween decoration, or any day of the year decoration, really. So with that, thank you for watching, and have a happy Friday the 13th.